Greetings ladies and gentlefish. Today's video is going to consist of two replays and I appear in both of them, but in this first replay we are not seeing it from my perspective. We are seeing it from the perspective of Majestic Spoon here, and he is driving his Tier 9 Conqueror. Now I'm his platoon mate, and I'm driving another Tier 9 British tank. I'm in the Centurion Mark 7 just over there. And Majestic decided he was going to poodle over to this side of the map. Sorry, we're here on Mountain Pass. He's going to go over to the glacier over along the A line. Now I don't usually go over here, but I thought, seems like a reasonable plan to me. Let's try it out and see what happens. So from this sort of the ridge of this glacier, if you will, if you've got gun depression, you can actually shoot down from this glacier towards people who may well be trying to come to steal your cookies. Now the Centurion has pretty good gun depression, the Conqueror not so much, but the Conqueror definitely has the better turret. And I think it would also be fair to say the better gun. But nonetheless, we both are over here. We've got an IS-2 here. I mean, we're top tier, this is a tier 9 game, the IS-2 is a tier 7 heavy tank, so he's being, let's say, a bit brave. Going down there. Now he spots the enemy IS-6, and by the look of it, he actually manages to get a nice chunk of damage through his side armor, but he takes a hit back in return. Although the IS-6 does appear to drop down there. The Lurver's also up on that bridge, and you can see me moving forward to try and engage because I'd gotten bored basically. Majestic is still back here. He gets very unlucky with the shot on that Centurion. And at this point, I'm rapidly backpedaling, going, nope, nope, do not want, and the Centurion is still sitting there, which is a terrible idea, and Majestic gets a slightly high roll to put over 400 damage into him. The Conqueror gets 400 alpha with its 120mm gun. I take a hit there, but as I say, we're not seeing this from my perspective because Majestic's perspective is more interesting. He puts another shot into one of those Centurions. There's a Centurion Mark 1 down there. There's also a Centurion Mark 7. Now he's actually being quite careful here to only show either his fairly heavily angled hull or the front of his turret at these bad guys. So this is pretty good play from Majestic, and you can see he's bounced a couple of shots from that Centurion Mark 7 so far. And the Centurion Mark 7, I'm driving one in this game myself, gets a decent gun. Assuming he's using the top 105mm gun, that's basically 270mm of penetration. And if he's using the 20-pounder, that's still 226mm of penetration. So it's a fair whack of penetration either way. But Majestic getting some good bounces there and putting a nice bit of damage downrange toward those tanks. Now the IS-2 has paid for his, let's say, overzealous positioning with his life. So it's just myself and Majestic left over on this flank, and we managed to double tap that Centurion Mark 1. Now, we know there's a Centurion Mark 7 down there. There was, of course, an IS-8 and an AMX, and there they are. And this is where the kind of mediocre gun depression of the Conqueror is a bit of a letdown. It's 7 degrees, which is not great. I managed to put a shot into the IS-8, though, which allows Majestic to finish that guy off. I think I take a hit for my troubles there, but, you know, meh, c'est la vie. AMX there. Again, Majestic manages to polish him off as well. And between us, we're putting in, even if I do say so myself, quite a good defense of this ridgeline. Now, I was trying to only expose the front of my turret as best I could, but I've still taken quite a lot of damage there. Majestic gets a little unlucky with that shot. The Centurion 7's turret is very hit or miss, no pun intended. You know, it got a nerf effectively with the HD model, so the frontal turret armor is not what it once was, but it can still bounce a shot here or there. Now, I am very concerned about the other flank, so basically I'm communicating with Majestic here. We were on TeamSpeak at the time, if memory serves. He's going to stay here and try and... I say he was going to stay here. He was thinking of staying here and trying to hold back people pushing up the glacier, and I was heading back to try and defend our base. Majestic actually decides to come back with me here. I mean, looking at the enemy tanks down there, it's just the Centurion Mark 7, while he can come up behind us, of course, with his better armor and better health pool. Majestic could certainly be used over toward the base, and it's entirely possible that I've bitten off rather more than I can chew here. I have 420 health, I have the Centurion's large size and rather mediocre armor to work with, and of course the other thing with the Centurion, I'm using the top 105mm gun. It's not a bad gun, but it does get very bad DPM, which is a bit of a problem. Now if memory serves, at this moment I think I actually bounced on the T-54 lightweight because reasons. Majestic manages to take out the T-37, but unfortunately I come a cropper as that T-54 lightweight takes me down. And yes, I really, if memory serves, I am pretty sure I bounced on a T-54 lightweight with 270mm of penetration. The gun on the Centurion really can be frustrating. The T-54 is saying he's actually out of armor piercing, or at least I assume that's what he's getting at there. So, it is Majestic, an AMX 5100 and a T-28 facing off against the 4 remaining enemy tanks. There's the Lerva from earlier on, and Majestic manages to put a shot in him. It looks like he takes a shot in return, but to secure the kill, that was not a bad trade at all. And actually, the friendly team here manages to pick up another kill, meaning they are actually one kill the better off. However, we do need to be careful here. There's the 2 Centurions remaining on the enemy team. The AMX 5100 does not have a huge amount of health remaining, and neither does the T-28. So this is actually still an eminently losable game. Now these are the 2 Centurions, of course, who we saw earlier on. Centurion actually takes down the AMX 5100. I assume the AMX was reloading, and he gets a very long reload with that 100mm autoloader, assuming he's using the top gun. And the other Centurion, the Centurion Mark 7, polishes off the T-28. And so this leaves Majestic all on his lonesome against 2 enemy tanks. Now they're not in a platoon together or anything like that, but all the same, one of them is a tier 9 with very high penetration, one of them is a tier 8 with still pretty good penetration. And together they could be rather problematic. Now ideally what you want to do in this sort of situation where you're outnumbered and alone, you want to take these fights one-on-one. If he fights both Centurions at the same time, even with Majestic's superior health pool, there's a very good chance that he'll just die. And you can actually see Majestic's loading the APCR because he really wants to secure this game, which is fair enough. So you really want to take these guys on one at a time and turn their 2-to-1 numerical advantage into less of an advantage as you fight a series of one-on-one engagements. So Majestic is coming back to the Glacier Road, and he actually runs slap bang into the Centurion Mark 1. The Centurion only damages his tracks. Majestic is not so kind and shaves off a very large chunk of the Centurion's health, leaving him a one-shot on 71 health. Now, if Majestic can take up this Centurion without taking any further damage, that would be a really nice result, because both he and the Centurion Mark 7, assuming the Centurion's using the top gun, have basically the same penetration and alpha damage. There's small differences, but it doesn't really matter. Both have good accuracy, but Majestic has the better soft stats on the gun and the better reload. So in a straight engagement against that guy, especially as Majestic has more health, my money would be on Majestic's Conqueror. So, really, if Majestic can take this Centurion Mark 1 out while taking as little damage as possible, that would be great. And Majestic does actually bounce off the rear of that Centurion, but he makes good by getting the slither, the tiniest slither of the backside of that Centurion Mark 1 and takes him out. And now the enemy Centurion Mark 7 makes a terrible mistake. He goes into the capture circle. Why is this a terrible mistake? Because he's waving a massive flag over his head going, "Look at me, here I am, come and kill me." Majestic didn't lose a single health point in the combat against that Centurion Mark 1. He flubbed that first shot. He actually used auto aim there, which was frankly really unlucky, but he made good with the second shot, the good reload on the Conqueror's gun coming in to save him there. But this Centurion really should not be in the capture circle. He should go somewhere else. However, Majestic is slightly undone here by his dodgy gun depression. However, Majestic has the reload on this guy now if he's using the top 105mm gun, and if he's not using the top 105mm gun, he can afford to take shots from this guy for some time. It seems the guy is not using the top gun, he's using the 20-pounder, and voila, there we go. That's the game. Majestic actually loads a HE round right at the end there, as the guy is on such little health, which is a really smart move. 515 average damage on a penetration, 120 penetration, but more to the point, he just needed to splash the guy for the last few of his hit points. He didn't have to worry about a bounce or any of that nonsense. So that was really good ammo selection right at the end there from Majestic. And there we go. Hopefully you can see why I thought it would be more interesting to see the game from Majestic's perspective rather than mine. So let's go and have a look at those results. So that game ended up being good enough for Majestic for First Class Mastery, Fire for Effect, Duelist, Steel Wall, High Caliber, and a Top Gun, which is quite a nice result indeed. He finished top of our team with 4,312 damage, 6 kills, and 1,222 base experience. He can't have been that far off an ace tanker, thinking about it, with that result. Special mention should also go, I guess, to the T28 on our team, who picked up over 3,000 damage. And even myself, I was third on the team. Despite my unfortunate demise, I picked up almost 3,000 damage with my Centurion. On the enemy team, commiserations to the T54 lightweight, 2.6k damage. I mean, the damage count, it's not massively spectacular, but it's decent. And 6 kills, 2.6k damage from that Centurion Mark 1 as well. 2,500 from a T32, over 2,000 from another T32. There were a few players on the enemy team who put in really quite nice results there. Curious how the Centurion Mark 7 did only 960 damage when you're top tier. That's really not pulling your weight. Even if you are using the stock gun, there's not really any excuse, because the Centurion Mark 1 here, who has an even worse gun, managed 2.6k damage. So not really an excuse there for the Centurion Mark 7. Anyway, move on. 17 shots fired, 17 hits, 14 penetrations for that damage count. Most of it was from relatively close range, which is not the sort of engagement the Conqueror really excels at, but Majestic managed to pull it off anyway. Blocked 1,380 damage with his armor, damaged 7 enemy tanks, got the kill on 6, got some base defense points as well. He made a slight loss with a standard account, or if he had been running a standard account, mainly because he fired those 4 APCR rounds, one of which bounced. But also very intelligent use of that Hesh round right at the end. He actually made a 17,000 credit profit as he was running a premium account. So that ended up being quite a nice game there for Majestic, and not a bad outing for me either, but far more interesting to see it from Majestic's perspective. Let's move on to the second showing. Here's the second game then. Now, some of you may have seen this before actually. In fact, some of you will have done. Some of you are even in it. This is, if we cast our minds back to the festive period, I did a couple of streams, you know, around the Christmas, New Year time, because I could, and I felt like it. And one or two of those streams were World of Tanks related, also streamed some other stuff. And this is a game from one of those streams. Now, I am joined in this game by British Bee and Captain Indigo, who you may well have seen in some of my other videos, and indeed you may well have seen in some subscriber replays. I'm driving the Conqueror here, so we're keeping it with the Conqueror. British Bee is in his E75, and Captain Indigo is in his Lorraine 40-ton. We're here on the Lakeville map. We're top tier, it's a tier 9 game, which is all well and dandy. Now there are 3 artillery on each team, which is kind of sad if you're driving the Conqueror, which really doesn't take artillery shells well. And why am I taking such a weird route into the town? Well, I'm desperately trying to hug the very edge of the map, because I really don't want to be spotted by one of those 3 light tanks and get nuked by their team, in particular the artillery. And I really was undecided about where to take the Conqueror on this map. On the one hand, I'm a top tier heavy tank, so that means I should go, and there's the gun elevation or lack of, so that means I should go into the brawling spots in the town, right? Well, the Conqueror isn't really a brawling tank. It's a really rather dodgy platform with a rather tasty gun on top. So yeah, I mean, and that's how the tank was designed. It was designed to kill IS-3s from a safe distance. something that I think it would actually have done a pretty good job of. Anyway, I've decided eventually that I am going to take my Conqueror into the town. British B has come with me, and Indigo has gone to the middle road. Now, if we're just looking at the opposition that we're going to come across, we can see that there is a 110, an IS-3, both of whom are pretty decent brawling tanks, even though they're a tier lower than me. There's also a T-44, an ST-1, and there's quite a lot of stuff over there. Now, actually managed to put a shot into that 110 and set him on fire, which amuses me greatly. And right now, this Comet is being kind of annoying, because he's just... I'm not trying to get in his way, but he is just blocking my every movement. I don't think it's intentional, but it is really quite irritating. Ooh, nice shot there from British B. And he's a tier 7 tank in a tier 9 game, and he's come into the city in a medium, and the last thing you really want to be doing is blocking your tier 9 tanks. Like I said, I don't think it's intentional. Now, here's the problem. It's basically me and British in the town here. Now, this Comet apparently wants to try his luck. Oh well. British has now been circled by this IS-3, so I am going to go and try to protect British's bum. I will in a moment. I may take a hit for my trouble, but we really need to secure that flank. British puts a nice hit in to the IS-3. I take a hit from the other IS-3, but put a hit in return, and we retreat behind these buildings. It's basically the two of us. I think the Comet by this point has died. Yes, he has. It's the two of us, and technically the artillery, in the town versus quite a lot of enemy bad guys. So this is a bad situation. Each of us put a shot into that first IS-3, but the other IS-3 takes a big chunk of British's health off, and he only has 1 or 2 shots left in him. I managed to put one into this ST-1, who is using the stock turret, which means he might actually have the stock gun, although I cannot actually remember off the top of my head. British is trying to side scrape around that corner. He puts a shot in. I'm trying to do something about this ST-1, but I didn't have the shot there. Swing round and execute the IS-3. 110 and IS-3 over there are both one-shots. The ST-1 is still poking around. Their IS-3 takes out British in the E-75, but if you've noticed, Indigo is not an idiot. He's seen what's happening on the map. We're not on voice comms on this, so we can only communicate by chatting, but he has come into the town just as British died, which for me is actually quite good timing, as it means between us we can take down those 2 tier 8 heavy tanks, and it means that I am not alone. Hurrah! Now, we've managed to basically kill everything that's come toward us. The T-44 has fallen back to their base. The ST-1 here, I managed to put a shot into, and then Indigo comes up behind and just destroys him. And suddenly, well, the ST-1 is not particularly happy about that, but, you know, what are you going to do? But suddenly, the town isn't looking quite so desperate. And there's a graveyard of tanks around here. We lost the Comet. We eventually lost British, but he went down swinging. And I thought I was going to die there, but I hadn't actually noticed Captain Indigo arriving like the cavalry to save the day. So we actually emerge victorious from the town and leave a veritable graveyard behind us. British didn't actually pick up a kill from the engagement, but he got in a good amount of damage. Indigo has racked up 2 kills, I've racked up 3, so that's 5 kills so far between us. Scoreline is 9-10, so this is not over yet. This is not a foregone conclusion. But that was a bit of frantic fighting. Now, we're trying to consider what to do next. The enemy have basically taken the valley. So we're going over here to try and do something about their other tanks. Now, we spotted out a T-44 who got Stura Emild. There's an E-75 who puts a shot into Indigo, but I take out a chunk of his health in return. And actually, I should have probably been a bit more aggressive here, because I have a way better reload than an E-75, but I was being very cautious because of my dwindling health pool. And now we're going to play Mexican standoff for a bit. E-75 is a one-shot, I'm a one-shot. Who's feeling lucky enough to come around the corner? Apparently neither of us. The difference here, of course, is that I have a friend in the engagement. And so I'm just going to sit here and keep the E-75's attention. Might read a newspaper or have a cup of tea while I'm doing so. And just in the background, if you're paying enough attention, you might notice there's a sneaky Frenchman. Indigo's not actually French, but he's driving a French tank, so it'll do. And there we go, E75 is taken down. So, the only other tank we know of who was over here was the Lorraine 15551. The enemy... Oh, hello, Mr. Lorraine. Goodbye, Mr. Lorraine. There's kill number 4. The enemy Conqueror has made it through to our base, though, by driving through the valley. And now it's the Conqueror and 2 artillery versus, well, 5 of our tanks. This should be easy, right? About that. So the Conqueror executes the M44, and M44 should never even have been in this game, but he was platooned up with a tier 7. What can you do? And so that pulls his team to 1 kill behind. And then he kills the Su-14-1, which brings his team level. And he's got quite a lot of health left. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. And our Sturra Emil doesn't. He is most definitely a one-shot. So this is not actually a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a one-shot, our Sturra Emil is a one-shot, Captain Indigo can take some hits, and he's unloading with his magazine into the guy now. I'm not actually sure here, but I'm wondering what gun Indigo's using, because they were either very high rolls with one of the 90mm guns, or very low rolls with the 100mm gun. With that reload time, I think it was low rolls with the 100mm gun, but there we go. Now, just to point out here, what is my thought process? My thought process is, we just lost our Sturra Emil. That Conqueror has pulled back after taking a ferocious beating from Indigo. He is a one-shot for me. I don't know if he's going to poke out yet, but what I do know is that if I stay here and the Conqueror spots me, eventually one of those artillery are going to kill me. So I decide to go for it and basically rush this Conqueror down. Indigo's saying halt, but I'm really worried about the artillery at this point, so I'm going, nope, I'm just going to push onward, hoping this Conqueror doesn't pop up. I think I've got this, and then suddenly he does pop up. And mutually assured destruction. We kill each other. Which is my 5th kill, and actually the enemy Conqueror's 8th kill. And he says GG in chat, and you know, this enemy Conqueror, he really took this very well. He played a good game, actually, and we'll see that in the results. But this leaves 2 enemy artillery. Now, they're lower tier artillery, but they're still artillery, versus Captain Indigo's Lorraine. And the Lorraine is, of course, a French tank, and French tanks are made of paper mache. They're the sort of machines that make artillery players have to go and take a shower. They really do like shooting French tanks. I know from experience, both of driving French tanks and of driving artillery. But anyway, Indigo is going to hunt some artillery. Now, he can probably afford to take a shot full in the face from the Crusader because it has a pretty weedy gun. Possibly from the Hummel as well, but he can't really afford to take a shot from both. But he does have a 6-round autoloader, so he can actually kill these guys in quite short order. And there is the Crusader SP. 1 shot. 2nd shot misses. No! No! Come on, Indigo, you've got this. And we don't know where that Hummel is. The Hummel may well be taking aim at Indigo's position, and that would be bad. So Indigo decides, you know what? Screw this for a game of soldiers. And he makes it look as if he's going down the central road. He's no longer spotted, and he comes back out again. Now, I don't actually know if that was intentional. If it was, it's quite smart play. Going one way when you're spotted, and then when you're no longer spotted, turning around, driving the other way, and he's driving underneath the level of the land so that the enemy team doesn't spot him, finds the Hummel, executes the Hummel. That will of course mean that he is spotted, but he does pick up the Hummel kill. And now that just leaves that Crusader SP on low health. But we shouldn't discount the Crusader SP. He's driving artillery. He could quite happily derp this Lorraine in the face and kill him. So, especially if he gets the side or rear. The side of rear of this thing are made of paper mache. There is the enemy Crusader, and there is the kill. And that is the game. Somehow, we managed to pull the win out of that one. And actually, between us, between the platoon mates, we managed to rack up 10 kills, which is 2/3 of the enemy team, which is not bad going. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the results for this game. So, here are the results for that one. For me, that was First Class Mastery. Is that Master Gunner? Eye for Eye, which you don't see very often, Bruiser, Duelist, Fighter, and Fire for Effect. None of the epic medals, but a series of little ribbons there. If you have a look at how well we did, there were really 4 good performances in that game from our team, and they were the 3 of us in the platoon and the T-54 lightweight. British B, despite dying about halfway through that game, still managed 2,500 damage and finished 4th on our team. The T-54 lightweight managed 2.2k damage, 2 kills, and finished 3rd. Indigo got 3.8k damage, 5 kills, over 1,000 base experience, and was 2nd, and I managed to sneak in 1st place with 4,657 damage, 5 kills, and 1,158 base experience. Massive commiserations to the enemy Conqueror, Eudorus 777. 5,561 damage, 8 kills, 907 base XP, and I should point out that 907 base XP, that's not with Courageous Resistance, because the base XP scores from the client, which is what this is, unlike the screens from whatreplays.com, don't include Courageous Resistance. So actually that was 907 base experience, so massive commiserations to the enemy Conqueror, who picked up a Top Gunner Radley Walters, a high caliber, and still lost. And also for being a gentleman about it. When he eventually died and we both killed each other, which seemed very fitting, seeing as we were both doing well and we were both driving Conquerors, you know, he just said, well done in chat. So massive shout out to that guy for being a very good opponent and a gentleman at the same time. It's not something you see every day. So for me, that was 13 shots fired, 13 hits, 13 penetrations. There's that gun for you. I found that gun very hit or miss. Again, no pun intended. Some games it's amazing, some games it's terrible. On this particular game, it kicked ass. 4,657 damage done, 7 hits received, of which 6 of them penetrated. We only bounced a single shot, and that was a poncy little 75mm gun that did 135 average damage. Hurrah! 2 hits received as a result of splash damage. 8 enemy vehicles damaged, 5 of them destroyed, and with a standard account we still made a profit of 12,000 credits. Would have been 34,000 credits with a premium account. In terms of XP, there was a times 5 event on at the time, so that was almost 6,000 XP. With a premium account, it would have been almost 9,000 XP. So, there we go. A couple of outings in the Conqueror there, both kind of involving me, even though it wasn't my perspective that you saw the first game from. I hope you guys enjoyed that pair of replays, and also a big shout out and a massive thank you to Majestic Spoon, Captain Indigo, and British Bee for platooning with me in those games. I hope you guys enjoyed those games. If you did, then by all means feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.